Aaron Wildig.
Oh
All right, you've had a baby.
yeah, mate. Just literally feeding him there. He's been an absolute nightmare the last 24 hours. So, yep, keep me busy.
Have you picked a name and all that?
Leo. Call
Leo.
him Leo. Yep. So, kind of both picked that one. There was a few names in the frame, but both picked that one. So.
Did it all go okay?
Well, yeah, it was all right. Didn't sleep for about 50 odd hours, but she did have an emergency C-section, but it wasn't too bad. It was quite calm in the end, so it was all right. And baby and my missus were all right, so yeah, quite calm in the end.
That's quite common these days, isn't it, for C-sections?
Yeah, the baby just wasn't taking well to she was trying to get slightly. Was it like they put a little drip on it? Wasn't it? Isn't it something like that to get her moving a bit, and the baby wasn't taking well to it, so they just recommended that. So it wasn't let's rush in and everything. It was all pretty calm, and we had a time for it and whatnot. But they just call it an emergency C-section, so it wasn't too bad.
Right. Well, should we get straight into it? If you listen to any of these, do you know what you're in for?
I've listened to about 10 minutes of one, and then the baby started crying, and then I never got back to it. So it was a bit of Starter Kenyon's one. So I've got a rough idea.
Okay. So go on. Let's hear about your early days.
From how early?
Like as far back as it goes.
As a tiny boy, well, my earliest memories I've got three brothers, so my earliest memories just playing with my brothers in the garden or in the field next to my house, along with my dad, my granddad, and whatnot like that, and just they're my earliest memories. Always really enjoyed playing it from as early as I can remember, and then ended up just joining in with the older age groups when I think I was like 5 or 6 and playing under sevens, and always seemed to do quite well. So just ended up really taking to it and enjoyed it from there. Yeah.
Did you work particularly hard? Did you feel?
As a young kid, no, I seemed to just be able to kick a ball further than a lot of the other kids at that age and whatnot, and seemed to have that extra bit of I don't know, just that extra be able to kick it a bit further. You know, when at young age and goals are smaller and all that. So I always used to do quite well at that age. But no, I didn't particularly work hard. It was more just playing every day. Well, there wasn't something at that age I worked on. It was more just playing and trying different things with like I said, with my brothers and that in the field. So it wasn't so much working on it. It was more just enjoying it and trying to I don't know, put it in the top corner and stuff like that without actually training and doing it. I was more just doing it with my brothers just to enjoy it, kind of thing.
You're a proper football fella, you know. You travel around watching England and all that stuff. Would you say you're from a football family?
Yeah, definitely. My dad was my dad at the age of 14, 15 used to travel around the country watching FA Cup finals with teams and all that. He didn't even support, but he was always been a Liverpool fan, so I ended up following Liverpool as well, and he used to follow Hereford home and away back in the day. So yeah, definitely all my brothers have played football, and they've all, to be fair to them, I think my older brother was at Birmingham as a kid, got released at 15, and then just completely fell out of love with the game. My younger two brothers, one was signed with Cheltenham, my youngest brother, and the other one had a couple of trials at Cardiff and whatnot, but never really took to it. More just enjoyed the freedom of going to score goals just in the park and that on a Saturday, rather than having the pressure of playing in academy footballs and that. So yeah, we've all definitely been brought up in a football family and whatnot. So yeah, definitely. Even both my granddad Ronnie and all that, he was a big into football, was meant to be a fairly good player and whatnot. So yeah, definite football family.
You mentioned Hereford. I know you grew up watching Hereford, and there's a few players you were watching back then that you've played with at Morecambe.
Yep, fair few. Michael Rose, he was a left back then in the proper good Hereford side in the conference. I expect a lot of Morecambe fans remember that Hereford side, because there was a lot of playoff games and all stuff like that. I've spoke to Jim Bentley a lot about those sort of games, because I used to go to them, and back then I used to sing a few songs at Jim Bentley when I was a young kid about you fat. Well, can you swear? Can you swear on this?
Well, you can, but I censor it.
Yeah, I used to sing "You Fat" to Jim Bentley. I've told him that, so that brought up a few memories. But no, Michael Rose, who else? Big Tombs now. I used to watch him a couple of times, but I was starting to get to the age there where football was starting to become a bit more serious, so I didn't really get as round to watching him as much. But I've watched Tombs when he was on loan at Hereford. But yeah, a bit weird.
Right, so go back to, you're a kid, you're playing with your brothers, you're playing in older age groups. At what point did it start happening for you?
Quite early, about 9 and 10, I'd been offered to go to trials with Aston Villa and Birmingham. Birmingham released me. If I remember rightly, I broke my arm, and it knocked my confidence a little bit. I went back to Birmingham and just didn't take to it. Was really shy, really timid. Didn't do well really. Got released from a 6-week trial at Birmingham. Then just went back to playing in like local football and whatnot, and got picked up by a scout. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but to be fair, I owe him to this day. Picked me up, went to they call them like little development centres in Monmouth. It was Cardiff Development Centre. Ended up just doing well there. We played a couple of games against like the academy sides down in Cardiff. Ended up going on trial there, and just ended up getting signed from that, which I think it was under 10s, and that was just the start of it. Yeah, ended up travelling up there 2-3 nights a week for the next 5-6 years. So very grateful to my parents for that, because I look back now and think all that driving and the cost of it and whatnot, it was unbelievable for them to do it. Cause I was leaving school at like 3 o'clock, running across the field home to get home, quickly changed, put a bit of food in the car, and then my mum or dad or gran or whoever would drive me down Cardiff, wait there for 2 hours while I trained, and I'd be getting back at like 9:30 at night. So that was the start of it then, really. But it was difficult because I was missing out on a lot, even at the age of like 10, 11 in schools and stuff. But no, obviously very grateful for all that.
Yeah, well, you have been sort of not allowed to play for your school side.
There was times, yeah, where they put a stop to all that. Like I had to stop playing local football. I obviously break the law a couple of times from Cardiff and playing like finals and stuff for my old local team, Hinton. So I'd go back and play in a few of those. But other than that, Cardiff had put a stop to all local football. But school football, like I think even to now, actually does have a priority that you should play school football. But once I did play to start with, but once I started getting under 14s and 15s at Cardiff, and I started to do well and was playing in the under 16s and whatnot, and under 15 I started playing a few games in the under 18s and that, I stopped playing school football as well and would just play in the like cup games for the school, just because risk of injury and all stuff like that. They just didn't want you playing in. So it become a little bit of an issue in school, because like obviously I'd come back in for a few games and whatnot, and I don't think you'd have lads who had played all the school year wouldn't like obviously be too happy. So that become a little bit difficult at times, but I actually enjoyed playing for the school football team. We had a good little side. I think we played in like the National Cup and did quite well in that. So no, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you get pulled in for the cup final for your local team and there's lads who've been playing all the way through and then you just walk straight in for the cup final, I mean, someone's being dropped for that. Did you never have problems in school because of that?
Yeah, well, not so much. You don't get it directly, do you, as a kid and whatnot, but you could feel it. Do you know what I mean? As a kid, I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. But then you'd have the coach of the side would like ask you to come back and play and whatnot, because you'd obviously want to win. Because you used to get like the local finals would be at Egger Street, with like Hereford's ground. So you used to come back and he'd always chuck you in. So you did feel it as a kid. But like looking back, yeah, it's poor, but not a lot I could do.
No. You said about your brother as well, how it didn't quite work out for him. He must still have been with a club while you were, so your parents will have had to be doing both, were they?
Maybe he got released about maybe at the time. Yeah, there was a time when maybe they were doing both. He was, I don't know, it would have been about 14, 15, and he's about 3 or 4 years older than me, I think. So, or 2 or 3, I don't know. I haven't got a clue, but there might have been a time, yeah. But there was a couple of other lads from Hereford at the time, so they had like a shared lift to Birmingham. I think it was a lad called Liam Jones. He had like shared lifts, but no, there must have been a time, yeah. I can't really remember, to be honest.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to your scholarship. You presumably got a scholarship with Cardiff.
Yeah, I got a scholarship quite early. I remember it was really weird. I was doing well at the age of 15, I think it was, and you get offered a scholarship at the end. You're 16, but I just went to report. We used to train at like an indoor barn in the Vale of Glamorgan Hotel, And I remember the academy manager just calling me in, and I was thinking, oh, what have I done here? Like, am I getting released or something? Because it was like, it wasn't at a time that you'd get told. And he told me and like my parents that night. I can't remember who was with me that night, and I was just buzzing. Like, I just went into school the next day, just like absolutely buzzing and whatnot. So it's quite a weird time. So that was just all set to look forward to then. I think that was in like year 10. So I went into year 11 at school. Everyone was like planning college and all stuff like that. But I'd already knew that I had a scholarship. So that was quite a nice little thing to look forward to. But then obviously when you get that scholarship, as soon as the day I finished school, which was like, for exams, is it July or something like that?
Yeah.
It was as soon as the exam finished, the next day I moved down to Cardiff at 16. So it was like moving away from home as soon as you left school. So it was quite difficult, but at the same time, you had to like grow up quickly and whatnot. So it was something to look forward to. And to this day, I've got real fond memories of my scholarship, mate.
Did you still have targets to hit in your exams, though, in school?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I passed all my exams. I managed to get everything above a C. To be fair, the school really looked after me. Like White Cross was they had a specialist sports college thing, so that they were proper into me, like getting a scholarship and all that. So it was good for the school. So I used to go in on day release at Cardiff on a Tuesday and Thursday and train with the youth team throughout year 11. So I'd only be in school like 4 days a week on average throughout my last year. So they made me drop a couple of lessons like woodwork and all stuff like that. I dropped in year 11, and I ended up getting spare lessons to do my English, maths, science and whatnot. So they looked after me a lot, to be honest, which helped out a lot with my coursework and all stuff like that. So no, that was good.
So you got your scholarship with Cardiff. In your age group, were there a few of you that ended up getting pros, or?
Yeah, there's a few who've gone on to have really good careers. Adam Matthews went on to play for Wales, Celtic, played for Sunderland in the Premier League. I think he's at Charlton now, real good player, fullback. A lad called John Meads went on to play for Wimbledon, Oxford, had a good career, but I think he retired like last year with a bad ankle injury, so that was sad. And then a couple of other lads, weirdly, there's a lad at Preston, Andrew Hughes, left back. He got released at the age of 14 as a little left back, great left foot, but just didn't have the physicality or anything. But now he's 6'5", went to Newport and he's massive. So it just shows you that you can have late bloomers and whatnot. And he's pushed on and played in the Championship week in, week out. So yeah, there's a fair few players that have come through and made a career. And my scholarship was probably like one of the most enjoyable times in my life, to be honest. It was unbelievable. We used to go into the old Ninian Park, which was a proper old football ground, and it was just seeing real life football, like, and being like something I'd always wanted to do. And to have that experience, used to report to the ground every morning, and used to have to report back there every night. So some days you'd be in the ground till 5 o'clock at night, and I had quite enjoyable bit because I had the proper old school. I had a bit of both on my scholarship. I had proper old school where we'd have to clean the changing rooms, clean the showers, clean the stands sometimes, sort the minibuses out. We had the proper like old school jobs, which nowadays you don't see any scholars do. So I had that side of it. So that was really enjoyable. Clean the players' boots every day. So you'd get designated 2 players. So you'd normally get players in your position. So I had like, I think it was Steve McPhail, Gavin Ray, a player called Ricky Schumacher. And then at Christmas, you used to dread it. At Christmas, you'd have a big like conference for the old club, Christmas meal and all that. And as a player, youth team player, you used to get up on the stage and you had to sing in front of the whole club for your boot money at Christmas. And honestly, you couldn't eat before it. You'd be shaking, you'd feel sick. And you'd get up, and if you sang well, they'd give you a round of applause. But if they start booing you, you wouldn't get your money. But when you did sing all right and they thought you'd done enough, the players would sort you out. I remember the one year, I think Steve McPhail gave me like 200-300 quid, which was at the time like a month's pay. So no, it was good, real good memories, and like just the lads and all that was actually, looking back, was just such a good time in my life. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
You like Steve McPhail, don't you? You've mentioned him to me before. Would you say he was one of your early influences?
Yeah, he was like, I think if anyone's read Stephen Gerrard's book, there's a quote in there which puts Steve McPhail in one of the top 3 players he's played against. And I think as a young kid, I think didn't he play in a Champions League semi-final for Leeds at the age of 18 and whatnot. So he was honestly some player whose ability and all that on the ball, you just used to look at him in training and just think, what a player. But no, people like him, there was a lot of good players there at the time. there was a lot of players I'd look up to in that midfield. It was a real good era, actually, to be at Cardiff. I look now and I just think, like, some of the players that they had there coming through, I didn't really realise it at the time, but looking back, yeah, it was a proper good squad to come through an academy setup and go into a first team and be around. I was doing pretty well as my scholarship. I was training with the first team a little bit, and I was doing well. And it comes to my 17th birthday, which was on the April of my first year as a scholar. And I got called in. Obviously, I reported to the ground that day. I was with the youth team, and my dad had took a phone call the next day, the day before, which was on the 14th of April, and I basically had a phone call saying I'd had a meeting with the chairman, and it hadn't clicked for me. I was like, what? I've got a meeting with the chairman? I didn't know what was going on, but I knew I'd been doing well, because at the time, like, I had a lot of agents and whatnot coming to, into my house. There was, like, agents who were proper big players in the game were trying to sign me and all stuff, so I knew I was doing well at the time. So I was just like, didn't know what to think. And then the chairman, Peter Ridgedale, called me in and was just like, we're offering you a pro contract. I think it was like a 2.5, 3-year deal at the age of 17. So it was like a good commitment from the club, and it was like a big thing. And I was just absolutely buzzing. Like, I couldn't believe it. It's everything you'd wanted from like the first age I can remember, 5, 6, when I was playing football. So he offered me a pro contract on my 17th birthday, and that was proper weird because I was 17, I was still in the youth team. So then the next day I would report to the youth team, but all the second year scholars and all that knew I'd obviously signed a pro contract. So there was a bit of bitterness, and it became a little bit awkward in that environment, because there was me and Adam Matthews had been offered pros. So that had become a little bit strange, being in the change room with lads that were still on second year scholars, that were still on a scholarship contract, but I'd signed a pro. So it was quite difficult, actually. But no, that was how my pro come about.
You were still training with the scholars, were you, when you got your pro?
It was basically the first team would train at the Vale of Glamorgan, and the scholars would train at the Tree Forest University place, and you'd report to the ground every morning at Ninian Park, and then the academy manager, Neil Ardley, would get a phone call that Aaron and Adam go and train with the first team today, or two other players. So it would literally report to the ground, and then you get told from there who you were training with that day, whether the first team needed a couple of players. And it was a weird time, because obviously I really enjoyed training with the youth team, but then I'd go and train with the first team, and you'd get proper nervous. But before all this, when I was in school, I was actually 15, and I remember I had a phone call. I was doing well at 15, I was training I played for the youth team a couple of games, and I'd done well. So going back to school, I was in like year 11 at school, and I went and trained with the first team when I was in school. It was on a Friday, and I remember going into it, and I don't know why, I played like off a left-sided midfield position in training, and we'd done like a small-sided game. It was a Thursday, and I was on day release, and I'd done really well in this small-sided game on a Thursday. It was like the starting 11 on a Saturday, or going away to Plymouth, but I'd done really well, because I'm quite good at playing round corners and stuff like that first time. And I'd done that linked up with, I think it was, I don't know who it was at the time, who the strikers were. I think it was, I haven't got a clue actually. But I'd done really well anyway. I took a phone call Thursday evening saying I'm travelling with the first team on the Friday. So obviously, Plymouth away, I was absolutely buzzing, but at the same time I was so nervous to go and like train and travel with them and all that. And I just remember being like a 15-year-old lad on this bus full of all these first team players, who internationals and all stuff like that. And I obviously got my seat in that, but I'd never been on the first team bus, so obviously as the youngest lad you had to make all the teas and coffees. Well, I never drunk tea and coffee, so I'd never made a tea or coffee. So even that, I was so scared, and I remember it to this day. We were travelling down, and I was carrying these tea and coffees down the bus 2 at a time. Obviously it's a bit shaky. I spilt this hot coffee all over Paul Parry. Oh, the look he gave me, he was disgusted. Well, anyway, I was devastated by it. Anyway, he signed for Shrewsbury when I was at Shrewsbury, obviously a few years older. I remember after about 2 days he was signed, I said, what an absolute you were like back then. He just started like, he obviously doesn't remember it because thing, but it stuck with me forever, because I just remember how scared I was and all stuff like that. Like, it was just pure fear. But I just said to him back then, he was just laughing about it then. But no, it was a proper like learning curve. Well, I didn't actually get in the squad that day. I just travelled. There was me and another young lad that just travelled, but just to travel down there and see how the first team worked on a day and all stuff like that. And on the match day, I think I did sit on the bench back then, or just behind the bench at Plymouth it was. It was such a good experience. But I was 15, I was still in school. And just to travel with the first team when there was like 2 or 3 years of lads older than me in scholarships. So probably the best part of 30, 40 players that could have travelled to give me the chance to. I was just absolutely buzzing to get on that bus. I'd only trained with the first team by that point about 5 or 6 times, but probably about 3 or 4 times. But I just had an absolute worldie in the training on the Thursday. So it was just one of those, I think, which just ended up just saying to the manager, "Oh, actually, no, he deserves to have a little crack at travelling with the team." So at no point did I think I would get involved or get on the bench or anything like that. It was just, and after that, I didn't get back on the bench for a good 2 years. Or didn't travel with the first team for another 2 years. So it was just like, I think, a little dipping my toe into what it might have been like.
Why do you think that was?
I guess they must have just seen me as a prospect. It was me and Adam Matthews. They must have just seen me as like a good prospect and someone who might have had a career in the game. So I'm guessing that's all it was, just a bit of experience.
No.
I
mean, why do you think it was that you didn't get a sniff for 2 years?
Oh, the team, the side Cardiff had at the time in midfield, you had Gavin Ray, who was a Scottish international. You had Steve McPhail, who was a Republic of Ireland international. You had Ricky Shimmiker, I think he was an international, played for West Brom and that in the Prem. You had Joe Ledley, who was a Welsh international playing centre midfield. You had Peter Whittingham, who was playing for England under 21s. You had Aaron Ramsey, who was playing for Juventus now. So you got 5, 6 players. Then you got people like Darcy Blake, who went on to play for Wales, who was in the youth team at the time. You had so many centre midfielders who was in front of me. So it wasn't for a lack of, the club didn't think, it was just for the quality of the club at the time. There were so many good players in and around the first team that you just weren't going to just jump in and around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So at that stage in your development, were they talking to you as the things they were trying to get you to do? Because you obviously ended up dropping down. So was there something they were trying to get you to do at that stage that you just never quite got to grips with, or?
Yeah, the thing maybe I should have done a lot better was on physicality and stuff like that. I should have, at the age of 15, 16, 17, when I was training with the first team, I always knew that I could handle little 1-2s around the corners, stuff like that. Possession practices I'd always used to do well in. But it was just the physical side of it. If I was coming up against even go back to Steve McPhail or stuff like that, he was a similar height to me, but he was just so much more thick set, so much more being able to it was just that difference in body shape and body size and strength. And looking back now, I just wish I went and spent more time, because obviously I was living away from home and whatnot. I wish I just went and spent more time in a gym and did that extra off the pitch. But at the time, I just used to just spend so much time just on the pitch and stuff like that. And I should have probably come away and just gone and worked on the physical side of the game and stuff like that, maybe a lot more.
Yeah, I'm actually, on your Wikipedia picture, you look very lean.
I don't even know what my Wikipedia picture is.
Yeah, you're in Cardiff kit and you're sort of, I think you're defending a corner. You're sort of leaning over with your hands on your thighs, and you look thin.
Yeah, well, when I played for Cardiff, I was only 17, 18. I should have, in those years, looked to bulk up a little. Yeah, that's probably one of my things that held me back a little bit as a kid, that, and just mentally. I was always, even when I was doing well, I always struggled mentally on believing that I was good enough to be around those players, and that set me back as well. When I broke into the first team, 17, I played a few games. I played in I come on in a Carling Cup second round or something like that, or second round against Dagenham and Redbridge. We won 4-1, and I come on wide midfield, and again done really well in the 20 minutes I had. So I ended up getting a couple of tasters and kept coming on in games, and then we played Bristol City in the FA Cup, and I ended up getting a start on a night game at Ashton Gate. So it was actually a local derby, Bristol Cardiff, and it was snowing and all that, but I ended up playing really well. And I got a man of the match on is it S4C? They used to stream the game and stuff. So that set me off to a really good start and stuff. From the first start, ended up starting a championship game away at Scunthorpe a couple of days later. So that season there, I look back now, and at the time, as a kid, you don't appreciate what you're actually doing. As a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid playing the championship, I didn't appreciate it. And that season, my first season, I ended up being on the bench in the playoff final against Blackpool. And I didn't even realise at the time, I just took it all in my stride. I didn't realise, looking back now, how big a game that game was, to be on the bench and be involved. I don't know, it was so strange. I I'd been involved a lot, and on the day I didn't know whether I'd be in the squad, and then I got announced on the bench on the day, so I was absolutely buzzing to be on the bench at Wembley and all stuff like that. 90,000 people there. It was absolutely roasting. But like, we thought our side, we thought we were going to beat Blackpool. Like, our side was better than them, but we were aware of Blackpool and how good a run they were on and whatnot. But on the day, it must have been 30 degrees. It was absolutely boiling, and we went up 1-0 up early on, 2-1 up, and then obviously it was 3-2 to them before half time. And then the second half was just the drabbest affair ever. It was just dragged. But at 90th minute, Dave Jones turned, and I was going to come on because I can't remember. It might have been McPhail who was cramping up, so I had a chance of coming on. But then he changed his mind and put Anthony Gerrard on up front for like the last 3 or 4 minutes. And obviously I look back and just think, it'd have been great to come on for those little 3 or 4 minutes. But obviously to put a lad who's 6'3" on when you're pushing for a goal. But no, to have that experience and be involved was unbelievable. But it was just such a sad day, because you just see so many, like Joe Ledley, who was a Cardiff born, just crying his eyes out the changing room and all that after. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but it was horrible.
Financially, that day must have changed your life in a way, because if you'd have gone up, the bonus, and then presumably you would have had a wage increase.
Yeah, I would have had a good bonus because I'd played 17 games that season, so I would have, in some format, whether it was a start or thing. So back then, like bonuses and all that, and that's bonuses when I was at Cardiff were good. So I would have made a few quid, and then obviously, like you say, I would have been promoted to the Premier League, which would have probably been 17, 18, would have probably put me in a position to go and ask for a new contract and whatnot, going into the Premier League. But then it just didn't work out. Obviously, came back that following summer. Dave Jones still had me. I was training with the first team like every day and all that after all this. I think I must have been coming on 18 now. That following season, we signed like Craig Bellamy and whatnot. So that was an experience training with him every day and all that. And I ended up going on to play about 2 or 3 games that year before Christmas. And then it come to the new year, and I played in an FA Cup game against Stoke. I think we lost the game 2-1. And then the following day, I had a phone call saying, do you want to go on loan to Hamilton? And everyone was just like, they've got Celtic, they've got Rangers, and that'll be a good experience for you. So I just thought, why not? But looking back, that's my biggest regret in football, going up there at that age.
Why do you regret it so much?
Just loads of things. I didn't need to go. I was 17, 18. I was 18, I think I was. I'd played 21 games or something for Cardiff. When I'd come off the bench for Cardiff that year, I'd come off the bench against Hull, got an assist, had done well. In the FA Cup game against Stoke, I hadn't played for like a month before that. Come on, done okay. Wasn't poor, wasn't great, but I'd done okay. I'd been in and around the first team. I was travelling. I was getting on the bench. I wasn't playing much, but I was an 18-year-old kid. I didn't really need to be playing that much. I was in and around the first team set up at the top of the Championship, pushing for promotion to the Premier League. I couldn't have expected to play more. But obviously, a few people have said to me, look, it's a good opportunity. You'll get to play at Celtic. You get to play at Rangers. Blah, go and get some football. But I moved up there as an 18-year-old kid. I should have never done it. I moved in with a lad. I ended up being so bored. I started gambling. It was just such a bad time. I ended up, like, the manager up there played me right back. I'd never played right back since day dot. I played right back live on Sky against Craig Conway in a Scottish Cup game. Got torn up. Just got embarrassed. I'm not a right back, do you know what I mean? And then ended up just spiralling, ended up going to the bookies till like late in the afternoon. Casino, just boredom. Me and the lad I lived with, Tom Elliott, he went and played for like Wimbledon and Millwall. I think he's at Salford now. And yeah, just really regretted it. Spent 3 months up there, and it was just the most wasted 3 months where I could have stayed at Cardiff, could have been training with the first team every day, training with better players, being in and around the first team there, and working on like my game, working on my physical stuff. Whereas I went up to Hamilton and the club just wasn't. It just wasn't run the way Cardiff was run. It was just like Cardiff was proper, like professional. Everything was there for you. You had it all proper cushy. It was such a good environment. You go up to Hamilton and it was just a complete different world. It was like dropping from one extreme to the next, to the point though where like you obviously see Hamilton in the Scottish Premiership, but Morecambe as a football club, the infrastructure was like now, even when I signed for Morecambe the first day, is so much better, so much more professional than how it was. Like some of the stories from Hamilton, I remember turning up one game, we played I think it was St Johnston away, and there was a lad on the bus that I'd never seen before in my life. I'd been there like a month. I'd never seen him. Get to the ground, and the gaffer named him in the team, and I was just like, who's this lad for the boys? And he'd come out the youth team. Like, we weren't struggling with injuries. There was first team right backs playing. They just chucked him in at right back on the day of the game. Never seen him, never trained with us. Got dragged at half time having a stinker. Didn't see him again. Stuff like that, just proper random stuff, which you just couldn't believe. And then I think we played Aberdeen away, and there was no boots. All the lads had to go to sports soccer to get boots on the day of an away game. Just incredible. So no, that was a time which I just regret doing. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't good for me financially, gambling. It wasn't good for me mentally. Just being away from home and living on my own up there was just, I regret that.
On the flip side, though, I mean, if you'd never have gone, you would have never have known how bad it was going to be. And if you reject that loan as a young lad, people at Cardiff might look at that and think, he's had an opportunity there, he's not taken it. If it hadn't have worked out for you at Cardiff, you might always have looked back at that decision not to go and regretted that.
No, I do agree with you, but then I always, at the same time, I wonder what might have happened if I stayed at Cardiff. Because I was in a position where I could have got a new contract. I had a thing in my contract where if I played 21 games, I could negotiate a new deal. Well, how it worked out was the game against Stoke in the FA Cup before I signed for Hamilton was my 21st game. So I spoke to my agent at the time, and he was like, yeah, we'll get it sorted in the summer. There's no rush. Dave Jones really likes you. We're absolutely grand. Anyway, went on loan to Scotland. That summer, Cardiff lost in the playoffs to Reading, and Dave Jones got sacked. I was in Magaluf. I remember being in Magaluf with all my friends, and Dave Jones got sacked, and I was like, oh, well, this is me now. And then obviously that summer, Malky Mackay took over. I got really ill. I ended up in hospital with Quincy. Lost so much weight. Was like everyone was back at pre-season, but I was off for 3 or 4 weeks. And the day I come back after pre-season, I'd lost all this weight. Went to train with the first team. After 2 days, Malky Mackay pulled me in and says, "You'll be reporting now with the youth team players." So I was just like, hold on a minute. I've been around the first team for the last 2 years, done really well. I've just got ill, and this is how you're treating me. So I just thought that was poor, but I ended up training with the first team a little bit longer, in and out when he needed numbers and whatnot. But that was the start of the end, really, for me at Cardiff.
Right. Shall we take some questions?
Yeah, carry on.
Okay. This one's from Michael Hope.
Right.
Which is the least favourite team you like playing against, and why?
The least favourite team I like playing against? Do you know what? Newport. I don't think I've ever played Newport and thought I've played well there. I hate, it's just, I don't really you just get grounds in the leagues that you don't like going to, and I don't like going to Newport. The pitch is always terrible. It's never a football match. The ball's always in the air. It's always a head, a kick, a flick on. You're getting tackled. There's people just running into you. It's never an enjoyable game. And to finish like that 2 months ago away at Newport, I just can't believe that's the last game we played 2 months ago. It's a horrible game to finish on. So hopefully we go back and get involved. But yeah, I think I'd have to say Newport.
Okay, next one's from Daniel Akidsa. Is there anything in particular you like to do before or after a game?
Before a game, I always feel different on a match day. I think a lot of players will say it. My body just knows that there's a match that day. But normally on a Friday night, I'll normally eat a similar sort of thing to what I've always done. And then Saturday, wake up, normally have breakfast around 9, pre-match around 11:30. Other than that, no, quite very similar every week. Yeah.
All right. Alex Kenyon wants to know, why do you always shush him when you score?
Because he's just one of those people that just winds me up all the time. He's just in training, he's always just little jibes and all stuff like that, little comments that just wind me up. And if he's not on your team in training, he's the worst person because he's always on the wind-up. So he's always winding me up in training. So whenever I've scored in a game, I've just ended up shushing him just because he's chirping up about me scoring and that.
Don't hold back, mate.
No, exactly. He deserves it. He must be a nightmare for opposition players, getting in their head.
Gardel or Otero wants to know why you're the only silver player in FIFA 20 on the team, and are you the best?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know why. And someone at FIFA must like me. I don't know why. But I want a 99 rated card, so I need you to sort me out with that, Matt.
Okay.
I want a 99 rated player card. But yeah, no, I haven't got a clue. Not a clue why.
Paulov, 1928, wants to know what your favourite pre-match meal is.
Oh, no, that's my girlfriend's friend's boyfriend. So I normally eat a carbonara or something like that night before a game. So I think that's what he's on about.
Why is he winking at you? He's got a winky emoji.
Because he's come up to watch a few games, and obviously my missus and her friend and that have had takeaways and stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm not eating a takeaway on a Friday night before a game, so I cook myself. So I'm guessing it's just to do with that they're eating one meal and I'm eating the other meal at the table. So I think it's just about that.
I see.
Yeah. Nothing exciting, mate.
Rick Jansen says, "Hi Aaron, what's your favourite episode of The Bold and the Beautiful?"
I've never heard of The Bold and the Beautiful, mate. Have you?
No, I mean, I assume this guy must be a friend of yours.
Nope. Never heard of him. Never heard of that show. There's not a clue, mate.
Right, more context needed, Rick. Samuel Sutcliffe. G'day, Aaron.
G'day, mate.
What's the motivation behind the bright boots? I love it on FIFA, as I always know where you are. Constantly yelling, get the ball to Wildig. Thanks, mate.
No motivation on the bright boots, just ended up liking them. Since I've been at Morecambe, I've normally wore red boots, but these yellow boots at the minute, they seem to have a few goals in them, so they'll be sticking around for a bit. I like white boots, but you end up wearing white boots after 2 games, they're yellow, so I've not really got a preference, yeah.
J Crook 93, what position would you say you're most effective?
I don't know. Depends the game, I suppose. The different games are different. I think in most managers you play for, they probably say I recognise like my movement's quite good and whatnot, and I recognise like I'm quite good at running beyond, running into spaces and all stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe an advanced midfield, but maybe whether that's in a 2 in front of a deep liar or something like that. But then last season under Jim Bentley, I played quite well in a 2-man midfield. So I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. It depends on the game. I think I'm quite effective when I'm making runs in behind and stuff like that. I just think I'd maybe lack that yard of pace to be able to go and do that. But I see the runs and I see like being able to create space for players and whatnot. But it's just, I think that's probably where I'm most effective, when I'm being able to run off the back of midfielders and stuff like that. I think that's probably my best position.
All right, next one. This one's from Harvey Bradbury. He wants to know what the best front flips are that you've seen on a night out.
I might have to give that to him. He's got quite an impressive front flip for a big lad. He's quite springy.
Jamie Holmes. The best player that you've played with and against. So I guess that's 2 different players.
So the best player I've played with there's probably 2 or 3. I'm going to play maybe for just ability, but probably should have done better, is probably Bothroyd. But for actual probably ability, I don't know, Peter Whittingham maybe. Peter Whittingham probably I'd go for. He's some player.
And against?
Against, I've got difference. For actual a name that I've played against, I would probably say like Frank Lampard or Michael Ballack. Those would be the 2 that for names. But for the player that caused me the most problems in a game, which I just thought I cannot get near this player, was a guy at West Brom called Robert Corrin. I just couldn't get near him. He just he just ran rings around me. On
that, I forgot to mention about the game for Cardiff against Chelsea. What game was that? What tournament?
I think it was the 5th round of the FA Cup. It just come about that a bit of an injury crisis at the time. Dave Jones just pulled me in on the morning of the game and said, I'm going to play, you've got absolutely nothing to lose. And yeah, it was just an unbelievable experience. So I had like 6,500 Cardiff fans behind the goal. I had all my family there. I had friends there as well, and just ended up playing, and they put out a proper good side. They had some side out Lampard, Ballack in midfield, and I just remember Frank Lampard just being an absolute legend on the game. I just asked for his shirt after about 20 minutes, and after the game and all that, he waited in the tunnel for me, come up to me, was like, "Oh, you're brilliant today, young lad," and all stuff like that. So, no, it was an unbelievable experience. Like, it was a bit surreal first 6-7 minutes of the game. I just couldn't believe what was going on. I just remember, I remember running back towards the Cardiff fans and Drogba had been put in over the top, and then he just hit this shot and it went in, and I just felt like I was living in I just couldn't believe, it was a bit weird. However mad that sounds, it was a bit weird at the time. But then as the game settled and I grew into the game, I really enjoyed it. It was proper one of my fondest memories in the game. No, real good day that, actually. We lost 4-1, but it was weird at the time because I was only a young lad. I didn't really it wasn't the result at the time. It was so weird. It wasn't massive for me. I was just happy that I'd played in the game and done well. Do you know what I mean? It was a bit of a weird day for me.
Okay. Well, we'll get back onto you. You've left Cardiff. You've gone Shrewsbury. How did that move come about? Did you have other options, or?
Yeah, Newport wanted to sign me at the time, but just to have a month's loan because I'd lost my way a little bit after the Quincy. So it just ended up between Newport and Shrewsbury, and Graham Turner was Hereford manager and knew I was from Hereford, so we had a bit of a connection there. And he brought me in at Shrewsbury. We were third in the League Two at the time, and it was around Christmas time, and I went in there. He ended up chucking me in for a game, weirdly, against Newport in the FA Cup away at Newport, and ended up played 4 games, then got injured, did my ankle, was out for 6 weeks, something like that. So they ended up going on a winning run. But then John Taylor, little Scouse lad who plays for, I don't know where he's at now, Rotherham or someone like that, got injured with 9 games to go. He got sent off at Morecambe, weirdly. He got sent off at Morecambe with 9 games to go that season. And then I ended up playing all 9 games going into getting promoted. So that was a really good experience on loan. I ended up getting promoted out of League Two, so playing in some big games. And that was a real good experience. So, yeah, I ended up getting promoted while I was on loan there. And then he offered me a contract that summer. So, no, that was the start of being at Shrewsbury.
What was it like being at Shrewsbury for your time there? I mean, how long were you there, sort of?
3 years, 4 years, something like that. No, I really enjoyed it. It was a bit different time. I had some bad spells. I suffered with confidence first. I went in there and started really well, but then started playing poorly, and I took a bit of stick. I knew I was getting a bit of stick off the fans and whatnot, stuff like that. So I started proper letting it affect me. But then the year after, I come back with a clean slate the following season and ended up doing really well. And barring an injury around Christmas time where Andre Boucard for Notts County did me dirty around my knee, I would have ended up playing a full season and whatnot. But no, it was. I actually really enjoyed my time at Shrewsbury. I took a bit of stick off Hereford fans because Hereford and Shrewsbury got a bit of a local derby, and we ended up playing in an FA Cup game away at Hereford. I got booed on the pitch at Hereford. We actually lost the game. We was in League One at the time, and Hereford were in the conference, and we lost the game. I took a bit of stick that day from Hereford fans, but no, real good time. Proper enjoyed my time there, and playing under a manager, Graham Turner, who as a kid at Hereford, I would be the manager of Hereford, so I ended up working with him. Was an eye-opener and real good experience, and there was some good stories working for him.
You said you struggled first year, did really well the second year. So yeah. Was it your third year that you came on loan to us?
Yeah, the third year. So the second year I'd done really well. I was probably top 3 players. Got offered, but I would have got offered a new deal, but Turner had left. In the February. Mike Jackson took the role. And Mike Jackson really took to me and was like, no, we'll offer you a contract and all stuff like that. Most of the players were leaving. But that summer, the club had told me that they'd had a clause in my contract where they'd already got an automatic renewal. So it wasn't a new contract, they just had an automatic renewal. Well, Mickey Mellon took over, and then the club got a lot of investment, and he brought in Liam Lawrence, who played at a good level. He'd had Bobby Grant, Wesolowski, they signed from Oldham, who was captain of Oldham. And from day one, I just knew in pre-season that Mickey Mellon wasn't really taken to me. He was, and then once the season started, Shrewsbury just kept winning games. So I'd go and see him, and he was like, "No, you still get a chance," and all stuff like that. And in the end, I was just sitting on the bench and not getting involved. And it got to a point where I was just dying to get out because I played the full season, apart from Mudmar and a 2-month injury the season before. So I was just dying to play games. I was just like, "What's going on?" Because at the time the fans had really took to me. I knew that the fans were wanting me to play and all stuff like that and get me back involved. So I just wanted to go and play football. So I ended up, Kidderminster was 30 minutes from my house in the conference. So I just went there for a month and played 4 or 5 games in the conference, which was an eye-opener and an experience. Didn't want to extend that loan. I wasn't like massively enjoying it. And went back to Shrewsbury. I think I ended up playing a game at home to someone and just ended up having a phone call off Kenny saying, fancy coming up here on the Friday before Carlisle away, and I ended up travelling up at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night to find out I was signed at Carlisle the next day. Yeah, that's weird. I just got called into an office on things saying Morecambe want to take you in on loan. Ended up at the Balmoral at like 10 o'clock at night thinking, what is going on here?
Did okay. Was it 1-1? It
was 1-1, yeah. It was like, I don't remember much of the game. I think I played about 60 minutes. I hadn't played since the Kidderminster loan about, 6-7 weeks before. I think I might have played one resi game. Yeah, it was a bit, I don't remember. I think I'd done okay. I think I just kept it neat and tidy and didn't really do much. All I remember from the game is just looking at Kenyon after and just thinking, he was playing centre mid, just think, you headed the ball 35 times minimum today. He was just winning. That's all I remember from the game, is just him heading everything.
You came in a similar time to Danny Ward, didn't you?
I think I came in on the exact same time, yeah. I think that was possibly his first game as well. So, yeah, what a keeper he was. He would just catch anything in his box, wouldn't he?
Yeah, you did, and our form really picked up, didn't it, when you and him came in?
Yeah, I think I played 9 games. I think we won 5, drew 3, lost 1, I'm pretty sure. We proper messed up a few promotions as well. We messed up Bury. I think we cost Southend promotion. I think we beat someone else, didn't we? Did we beat someone else near the top? I can't remember who. But no, it was a proper good time. We just ended up winning games. It was... I think we lost to Burton, I think was the only one we lost to. But it was a good time because a lot of the away teams were bringing like 2,500, weren't they, to the Globe? And it was like big crowds and whatnot. So no, really enjoyed that loan. As soon as that loan finished in the summer, I wanted to sign, so...
Well, it was funny because from our point of view, you were very, you were like a new kid in school. You really didn't seem to speak to anyone. It was either that you were just keeping your head down and making sure you didn't cock up, or you just weren't interested and you were only here to get games. At the end of the season, we were talking about how we'd love to get you. No one thought we'd stand a chance because you just didn't seem interested in...
I've always been one of those people that, like, it takes me a little while to settle in a group. I think if you asked anyone, it takes me a little while to like come out of my shell a little bit. So I think if you spoke to most of the lads that have been at Morecambe since I've been there, they'd all tell you that the Christmas do that year, even after I'd signed, proper in the summer, it even took me 3 or 4 months to proper build it was a proper difficult change room to go into. I say it all the time, like at Shrewsbury, it was a lot easier. You come into the thing, you had Kev, you had other loud characters, you had like Jack Redshaw was there the first few months or so, you had Sean Bealey, you had a lot of like a Scouse contingent who were proper loud, and it was a difficult change room to know where to fit into. So that took me to that Christmas do where I've always been quite lively after I've had a beer. I've always have a good go when I have a beer, and it took me that Christmas do to proper settle into the group, and that really helped me. But no, I was always, like you say, quite quiet, quite like, I don't know whether intimidated is the word, more like aware of what was going on around me, and like didn't know where I really stood in the group. But yeah, no, I wanted to sign as soon as that loan was thing, because I actually enjoyed playing and the environment and that.
Yeah, the perceptions of you, certainly from my point of view when you first came in, it couldn't really have been any further off what you're actually like.
Really?
Yeah, really. You had your long hair, your big quiff. You were very reserved, very polite, quite southern.
Are you saying I'm not polite, mate?
Stop twisting it. I don't mean you're not polite, but you were very, you were like a proper southerner to us.
Right. So what are you saying I am now? A northerner?
Nah, but you're not like a toff. You seemed like a bit of a toff, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But and also I remember when we did sign you, I remember speaking to Barry Roach in the summer because he was signing his 1-year deal extensions all the time. So when I said him and you'd signed, and I was saying, because obviously you'd done really well for us, so we were saying what a good signing it was. And he'd had a text off someone, I guess, at Shrewsbury, and I can't remember who it was, don't try and get it out of me, but it was basically saying, like, oh, he's the most negative man you'll ever meet.
I've always been my biggest critic, mate. You'll know that now. It's probably, like, a lot of managers have told me over the years. Jim Bentley's told me thing, and even Derek now said to me that you need to like believe more in certain aspects of the game. Every manager I've ever had has said that you still need to stop beating yourself up and being so negative on yourself. And that is probably, one of my biggest issues. But I've started getting better as I've got older, and I think I'll only get better now with it. But no, that is quite true that, quite a negative man back then.
It's true, but it's not in the way that we interpreted when we'd got that text. Well, I didn't get the text. When
you thought I was a miserable get, like?
Yeah, we thought you were negative in a different way. We thought you were going to be... Because obviously it became quite clear that you hadn't come out your shell. And if you misinterpret that, it seems more like you're going to be negative about everyone else and everything else.
Oh, no, I'm only negative about myself.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know now. Should we take some questions?
Yep, good.
Seedsy Taki Measley.
It's easy for you to say, mate.
Yeah, I know. What do you think about Crewe Alexandra?
What do I think about Crewe? I've got some bad memories of Crewe Alexandra, especially away from home. Yeah, they're a good side. I think we held our own against them the other week. Gave them a really good game. But no, I think clearly they're one of the best footballing sides in the league. They've got some really good young players who I think will go on and progress in the game. But no, I think they're one of the better sides. That if the league does continue, I would not be surprised at all to see them go up. James
Leach wants to know if you prefer playing in a deeper role or further forward. I know we've already covered this a little bit.
Yeah, similar to the other question. Just it all depends on the game, really. There's games where I feel like I can get the ball deep and do well and affect the game from there. But then there's other games where I feel like I can run beyond the striker and affect the game. That way, I think a lot of managers who I've played for seem to think that I make quite good runs from midfield. So I think they'd probably see me in a more role where I can affect midfielders off the back of midfielders. But last season under Jim, I did all right in the midfield too as well. So yeah, I don't really have a preference massively.
This next one's a little strange. It's from Terry.
Right.
He wants to know what your favourite meat is.
I've seen this question.
And what things do you do with it? Someone called George has politely asked him what he's on about, and he's just clarified that he wanted to ask something. And he looked at what was around him, and he had meat in his area, so he thought he'd ask about it.
Right, okay.
What's your favourite meat?
My favourite meat? I think I'd have to go a bit of steak, mate.
Okay, how do you have it?
Medium rare.
All right, there you go, Terry. Sam Lavelle wants to know 5 lads from the last 2 seasons, not including yourself, who you'd take on a night out. And why?
Oh, tough. I should have probably thought about this because I saw this question when he tagged me in it. 5 lads I'd take. Right, let's have a think. I'd go with... Well, he wants me to chuck him in, doesn't he? So I've got to chuck him in. He's quite lively. Bit of a cannon. So we'll go Laval. I'll go Luke Conlon, just because he's an absolute car crash. Ends up falling out of his missus every single time, guaranteed. Eyes disappear, and just a funny guy. I'd have Ben Edley. Again, great lad. Proper, always there. Won't go home. Always just proper, funny kid. I'd have... Who else we got? I'd have Liam Mandeville, just for an absolute car crash. Could talk that kid into doing anything. Just very good value for money. Those 4, me, and then I'll have Kenyon, because Kenyon could just watch over us or stop us doing anything we shouldn't, because he's the more sensible one. So I'll bring Kenyon along to look after us all.
Very strategic.
Yeah.
Okay, J03 Oven 08 asks, how does it feel to be back at Morecambe? I don't really know what he means, but...
Have I gone and come back? Yeah.
Oh no, let's skip that one. Stupid.
Not sure.
Brandon Crevente, what do you think's the secret of Morecambe's playing style, considering the key players have been around for 5 to 8 years now? Greetings from Mexico. Much respect, Idol.
Bloody hell, fair play. Mexico international fans. What's the secret to Morecambe's playing style? I don't know. Maybe I think the manager now wants us to play in a certain way. He sets us up in, I think, to play a structured game with good attacking football. Wants us to score goals, get forward, run forward. So just work on the training ground, I suppose. Work on the training ground leading up to a match on a Saturday and who the opposition we're playing against.
League 2 base wants to know your favourite Morecambe goal.
My favourite Morecambe goal? Obviously, I like the one at Carlisle because it was obviously a good strike. Weirdly, this is going to probably surprise you, but my favourite Morecambe goal was probably Forest Green away because it was about the 88th minute. We'd been absolutely battered by Forest Green. I was captain on the day. So to be captain and then score an 88th minute winner away at Forest Green, obviously I had a couple of my mates there, my brother was there, my granddad was there. So obviously that's probably one of my favourite ones, to score a winner late on the way to Forest Green.
Taylor Cow PS2, what's the first thing that crossed your mind when you scored that amazing goal against Carlisle?
Firstly, let's go celebrate. Let's go run over there and celebrate. Bit of a weird celebration, but just happy to see it go in.
It was a good goal, that one has.
Cheers, mate.
I'll get that one into the next montage.
Cheers. Get that little Rabona in a few years ago against Crew as well.
Okay. Samuel Sutton, at your time at the club, which two midfielders have been the best you've seen and played with?
Difficult question, isn't it? Because they're all good at different things. Like, you'd say, if you wanted someone to do a proper job on a big centre forward, like I've never seen someone like Kenyon do a better job on Akinfenwa, whether you find a better player doing a job on him in the league. But I don't know, it's difficult. Obviously, Devitt, just for pure ability and technique and whatnot, he was quality. Barkhusen for just pure pace, directness, affecting a game, and then what he's gone on to do at Preston. And then you've got just the absolute madman that Flemo was, who just should never have played in League Two for so long because he had so much ability and could just nick the ball with his go-go gadget legs off anyone and do a piece of skill which you were just like, how's he even done that? But just an absolute space cadet the kid was. But no, there's been a lot of proper good midfielders, so it's difficult to say. Then you've got Kev, who just scores at the age of 4, he just scores bloody 10, 15 goals a season, just affecting football matches. So there's been loads of really good players, so to actually just single out two would be difficult.
It's interesting because every player you mentioned there was with us in your first seasons when you signed for us, the season when we had the red and black stripes. That was that group. And don't forget we had Sean Miller, who scored 16 goals as well. We had Paul Mullin, who scored double figures. Kev got double figures. I always look at that season and think, I said exactly the same thing to Kenny.
On our day that season, though, we could absolutely batter sides. Remember, I know we didn't win the game, but we went to Portsmouth and first half, we were actually like Brazil. Weren't we 3-0 up when they scored just before half-time? But how good were we that day? I remember there was one move that I always regret it to this day. Devitt had played it into me, I'd overs it, played it into Sean, like he'd gone to Sean Miller, he'd 1-2'd it back to me. I've gone in like from the angle and just hit it wide. I was absolutely gutted. It would probably been one of my best goals.
Yeah, it was a shame, wasn't it? Do you remember Adam Dugdale was at centre half for us and he had contact lenses in and someone had poked him in the eye and the contact lens had cut his eye? Do you remember that?
Portsmouth away.
Yeah,
it
was that game. So we're defending for our lives, trying to hang on to the win. Dugdale's got blood pouring out his eyeball.
I just remember going mad at the ref. It was 3-2, and honestly, I just remember shouting at him, "You're going to play until they score," and they scored in like the 97th minute or something ridiculous. My head was completely gone. That's all I remember.
Yeah, but that first season for you, do you remember the pre-season? We were absolutely killing teams, weren't we?
I thought I was getting a move off the first pre-season. I didn't score in like every game that pre-season. We'd play like. Yeah, we popped the ball around. Like you say, we had some good players. Probably should have done a lot better that year, to be honest. I don't know why, one reason or another, but no, it was at times. Remember, like I didn't even play in the game. I come off the bench, but remember, like Wimbledon away in that when we scored 5, and Barkhusen and Devitt were just absolutely ridiculous on the day, and Sean Miller scored a 40-yard screamer in that.
Yeah, it's just such a shame we didn't hang on to some of those players.
No, I know, it's just, I guess money talks in football, doesn't it? And when these players get those sort of offers, it's difficult at our level to turn them down.
In saying that, though, the following season we did better, didn't we? Do you remember Michael Rose's first season?
Yeah, Rosie was like the Pele, wasn't he, in the middle of the park for the first 6 months of that season. He was an absolute joke. He was brought a calmness and that, but didn't that proper tail off? We proper started struggling, didn't we, towards the end? And was that the Coventry season?
No, that was the Diego season. So that was the one where Barkey left.
Oh, yeah, I do remember, yeah. I do remember. No, yeah, we've had some good sides, mate. It's just, I don't know why, we just seem to not be able to consistently do it over 46 games. It's like little fits and starts.
And it was the following season, Coventry. And that's when the real goal-scoring drought started, isn't it? You know, for the club, really.
For me?
No, for the club. We were just struggling to score goals.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's down to like mental and stuff like that. You keep saying, "Oh, we're not scoring goals," and I speak on a personal level that you just end up getting in your own end and think the next goal's never coming. And I think as a side, you kind of think like that as well. You go into a game and think, "Who's actually going to score for us today?" Rather than just going in and seeing what happens and having a structure to try and score goals. You end up overthinking not scoring goals, and I think that can like just lead to a bad run of stuff like that.
How did you find that season, though? Because we'd always started really well, hadn't we? And then slipped towards the end and maybe flirted with the relegation zone. But that season, we were kind of down there.
Well, yeah, we never... It was weird, wasn't it? Because when we were about 10, 15 points clear, and then Barnet just went on the maddest run ever. And then I just remember, like, I was on the bench coming on for the odd game. I wasn't massively playing loads. And I just remember I was really ill on the week leading up to the Barnet game, which was a massive game. And I wasn't even going to be... I didn't train 2 days before. Like, I'd been in bed, and Jim had rang me on the morning, was like, "Can you come in and sit on the bench just in case you need 10 minutes or something like that?" So I remember just watching the game, and the game was... how bad was that game against Barnet? It was so bad. We just completely froze on the day. We were just a team waiting to get beat. Obviously, when he scored, and I just remember looking at Barnet was celebrating as if they were like going to get promoted, and our lads were just on their knees, just like as if we'd just been relegated. And I think to this day, if you ask like Jim Bentley, and I think that's why he ended up giving me the armband. I just I don't know why, because I hadn't actually played in the game. I just reacted well to that situation. And after, I was quite vocal on the pitch and in the changing room after the game about like, this isn't done, we're not relegated yet. And I think that stood me quite well going into the following year, where Jim gave me the armband in a few games. That he like thought, no, this like I can actually like be a leader in certain situations. So I think that actually was quite a good moment for me to like, and they ended up chucking me in at Coventry away the following week. So it must have like sown a seed in his head that I was ready to like play in the game and whatnot. So it was good. It was good to play in that game and have that experience. And I don't want it again, but to have that experience and sit in my chair when I'm 70 and say I played in a game like that will be a decent little story.
No, you're right. At the end of that Barnet game, when everyone was on the pitch as though that was it, we were down, and you come on. Watching you come on then was something. It was like in a film when the protagonist completes their character arc. We'd never seen anything like that from you.
I hadn't played in the game, so I had no effect. Like, I couldn't affect anything. I'd been really ill. I'd still felt ill on the day of the game. I still wasn't myself. I think if you asked a lot of people, I'd still looked like I'd seen a ghost and all that. But I was just looking around and I was thinking, hold on a minute, we're still 2 points clear. Yeah, we've got to go to Coventry away, but it's League Two and anyone can get a result anywhere. I think they had played Chesterfield, and they were just running around like they'd stayed up, and I just thought, this ain't over. Like, I don't know why we're acting like it's over. We've got a week now to go and like save our season. So I don't know why. I just thought, just get everyone up and just be like, it ain't over. Let's have a good go at next week. And to be fair, from Monday onwards, we had a proper good week, and I just didn't feel like we were going to get beat on that day. And as it worked out, that game was a proper weird game at Coventry. Proper weird game.
The negative side to it, though, is that we never really recovered, did we? We went into the following season, which was last season, still struggling to score goals. We were battering teams. Do you remember this?
So which season? So was this not this season? The season before, wasn't it?
This is Zach Mills, Liam Mandeville.
Oh yeah. We played some unbelievable football, didn't we? But you couldn't get a result. That's probably some of the best football in terms of like actual like passing or stuff like that since I'd been at the club. But yeah, like you say, we couldn't get a result. We go to away to Bury and stuff like that, who were proper fans. We lose 3-2, but on the day we play some real nice stuff and all that. But yeah, I think losing can become a habit, can't it, in football? And having that mentality to know how to win a game or know how to get a result in a game is massive. And I just think once you have that habit of not being winning games, it can become a struggle to change it. And I think that's just what happened there. We just didn't have that bit of streetwise to go and see out a game or go and, because didn't we start conceding proper late goals, or I don't know, it was one reason or another. And I just think that's a bit of experience streetwise in football.
It all changed though in January, didn't it, when we brought Bennett and Collins in?
We didn't have someone in the first half of the year, like I say, we were playing good football, but we didn't have someone just put that key moment in the net. And then I think Collins just rode away from the minute he stepped on that pitch on the first game and scored on the sub, then come on away at Oldham, scored again. And as a player, if you're going in on loan, you score 2 in your first 2 sub appearances, you hit the ground running, didn't you? So I think you just ride that thing, because to be fair to Collins, he was an absolute great lad, but I've got to be honest, in football, I've been in football about 10, 11 years. He's probably the worst trainer I've seen in the 10, 11 years. He couldn't stand up. He couldn't pass. He was just, but he would never get down about it. He would just laugh and he just knew he wasn't a trainer. But then come to a game and he was so good for us. He stretched the game. He'd make unbelievable runs. He'd score goals at key times. He was class. So you don't mind it when a player's like that. And yeah, to be fair, he completely changed our season, didn't he?
He did, and once again, it was such a shame not to be able to keep hold of that group.
Yeah, massively. But again, I go back to it, and it's such a shame. But I think he took a bit of stick, didn't he, when he was playing for Forest Green for us? But he's from Newport. Forest Green's 50 minutes from his house, from his family, from his girlfriend. And he's probably, let's be realistic, doubled his wage on a longer contract with probably a lot better bonuses. And a kid at 22... for most people in work and stuff like that, if you had that opportunity to be closer to home, next to your family, on double money, football's only last 10, 12, 15 years. It's really difficult to say no to something like that, however much you enjoyed it. Because I know for a fact how much you enjoyed it here, because this change room, Morecambe's to be one of the best change room. Any player comes in and gets around how close knit it is and whatnot. But to say to a player that he shouldn't go and take that move would be difficult.
All right, shall we take some questions just to finish? I've ordered these, so these questions kind of cover this season, so it's just a nice way to close this off.
Yep.
So, Jason Puller wants to know who you would say from the current squad has the most potential.
From the current squad, I think the obvious one's Carlos, isn't it? The kid's got so much abilities. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him go and play at the top level. He's got a lot of self-belief, and he's got a lot of good things to his game. He's mobile. Some of the work he does defensively in recent weeks before the breakup was frightening. The way he tackles, he was like in N'Golo Kante at right wing sometimes. The way he's winning the ball back, the skill he's just got that natural ability to be able to just take a player on. And I think now the main thing for him is to go and add statistics to his game. I think if he does that and goes and gets numbers which get recognised, I think there's no reason why he can't go and play at a lot higher level. So yeah, I think the one that could proper kick on is probably Carlos.
A. Crow 79 wants to know what you think the team needs to gain promotion.
What do I think the team needs to gain promotion? Well, I think over the last few months, we've been in every single game we've played. We've been, well, to be fair, all season we've been in every single, most games. We've had obviously Crew away thing. I think where we got battered, but I think in general, League Two, the key to getting promoted out of League Two is keeping tight, being difficult to beat. And then at the end of the day, in every game in League Two, you will get chances. And going back to the Aaron Collins a minute ago, if you put away that chance at a key time in a League Two game, you've got every chance of winning the game. So I think it's just a matter of getting that goal scorer and then getting a good platform behind him to keep a solid base, keep us in games, keep games tight. And I think being consistent over a season, and you have every chance that you can go and put a promotion push together.
We've got two here that are very similar, so I'll just read them both and combine your answer. So, the Morecambe FC feed. Would you say this season's been your best at the club? Can you pinpoint anything in particular as a reason behind your goal scoring before COVID took over? And then James Main says, you've scored some great goals in recent months, and you seem to be in the form of your life. How confident are you right now in your goal-scoring ability? Because when I've spoken to you in the past, you haven't been very confident.
Right then, about 18 questions. World's longest question.
This is generally about goal-scoring.
So, in terms of goal scoring, I just think it's believing, like that. I think it was James who just said. I just think I've always been negative on myself. So it's one of them where I've almost defeated myself before I've even gone through on goal. And I had a thing, you all know, Matt, how many one-on-ones I missed in a couple of seasons here. And I had a thing with one-on-ones. I think most of my goals for Morecambe have been first-time efforts, and I think it's just a matter of not overthinking it. And I think in recent weeks, and I think since the new manager's come in, I think I've scored 4 goals in about, I don't know, I think I've probably played about 12, 15 games for him. So it's not a bad return from midfield. So I think it's just that belief of, I can score goals. I do get in the positions. It's just a matter of concentrating in that moment. And I think that belief is just going to hopefully grow now. Because I said to the lads, like, even before Newport away, I didn't get a chance, but I just felt like I was going to score on that day, which I haven't felt, you know what I mean, for a long time, since like youth team days and stuff like that. So I just think it's a belief of getting in there and just concentrating. And I think, obviously, hopefully that's only going to grow now, because I know I'm capable of being able to put the ball in the net, so hopefully it's just a matter of keep getting the opportunities and hopefully goals will keep coming. I think I've said hopefully about 86 times there.
That's okay. Joel Shooter wants to know what led to you being played in a wide role recently.
You'd have to ask the manager. I think, like I go back to it, I think a lot of managers I've played for have said I've got fairly good movement and whatnot, so I'm quite good at coming in off the lines, getting in little pockets. I don't know, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but it's just a matter of trying to do my best for the team. I scored against Macclesfield from a wide position. I probably, on another day, I could have had a tap in at Grimsby away from a wide position. So as long as I can try and affect the game in some format, then, and I'm getting a game and the manager thinks I'm doing all right, then I suppose that's all that matters.
Yeah, I suppose it's not that unusual, is it? Because when we played 4-2-3-1, you always spent time on the wings, didn't you, in the rotation?
Yeah, I do quite like drifting like into little wide areas, and the wide man comes in off the line and all stuff like that. And I think that's something that the manager wants to see. And he does like his wide men coming in off the line a lot and getting into little pockets, affecting their midfield and their fullbacks. So it's not easy for him. So yeah, it's something that he seems to like, and I don't know whether if we go back this season, whether I'll end up playing there again or whatnot. But yeah, if he manager wanted me to play there, but no qualms in playing there.
Right, last one. It's sort of same from 2 people. We've got Kieran 404 and Hannah Townsend. What's your favourite Morecambe moment?
My favourite Morecambe moment? Obviously, the one that really stands out is just that feeling at Coventry away when we'd stayed in the league and it was boiling hot day. It was the last day of the season. There looked like 1,000 Morecambe fans behind the goal. That relief of, like, you see the way Jim reacted and the way the chairman and Rod and all that reacted on the day. That'll stay with me until I'm old. You know what I mean? It was a unbelievable feeling just to see the emotion. Then you obviously had the Coventry fans who just made the playoffs, so they were on the pitch as well. The stadium, it's not a League Two stadium, it was like Premier League grounds. You know what I mean? So that day as a whole, the bus trip back, coming back to the ground after that day as a whole, I think is the one that really stands out. But obviously for the wrong reasons, because it was for relegation, like for us staying up. But no, I think that one really stands out because you had the fear of like people losing their jobs and whatnot if we would have dropped out of the league. So yeah, that one probably.
All right, well, I'll leave you to get on with being a dad.
Yeah, go back to a crying baby for the rest of the day.
No, it sounds like you're enjoying it, Az.
Depends what mood he's in, mate.
Okay.
Yep.
Any Netflix shows for us while we're off?
Oh mate, I haven't got any time to watch Netflix at the minute. I've not been doing anything. Sun's out, isn't it, mate? Get in the garden.
Okay.
But yeah, no. What about you? You got anything for me?
Oh, I've been telling you to watch Fargo for years.
Fargo, yeah. You have told me about this a few times. But no, George Tiger King. I watched that.
I watched the first episode and just turned it off. I didn't really see. I was expecting the first episode. I thought was poor, but I was expecting it to really hit us with something at the end to make us want to watch the next
Do you know what,
one.
mate? I agree with you. I actually think the show's poor, but I don't know why. I just watched it because everyone was talking about it, and I don't really get the hype on it. It's just the fact that how weird it is. It's just the weirdest show ever.
Nah, I just watched the first one. I won't be watching another. I did try and watch all the Marvel films because I hadn't seen. The only one I'd seen was Iron Man, so we started watching them all in a row, and I thought Thor was okay. But I thought Captain America was horrendous, and the Avengers, I swear down, it was even worse. I don't see the fascination with them. I think they're poor.
How would you feel if I said I've never watched one?
I don't believe you because I know you went to the cinema to watch Aquaman.
All right, maybe I have been to watch one then. I didn't even know that was a Marvel film.
Oh well, it might not be actually, but whatever. They're poor. They're really bad.
Yes, well.
In my opinion, of course, because I'm not always right, am I, Az?
Well, yes. We had a good few arguments over the years on that bus, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, we'd better close it off because people are going to start wondering what we're talking about here.
Yes.
All right.
Get bored. Put to sleep.
It's been a pleasure, Az.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
Well, I have to listen to this at least 2 more times before I upload it.
Jesus, that will put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
Fine.